If each country in World War II had its own unique hero unit like in strategy games, the German army's hero unit would definitely be the Heavy Armored Battalion. In the later stages, a battalion fully equipped with 45 Tiger tanks placed on any front line would boost the morale of nearby Allied units even if it didn't move. But did you know? For a long time, half of the tanks in the heavy armored battalions were made up with Panzer III tanks. Although many are reluctant to admit it, the Tiger tanks only began to appear on the battlefield in the fall of 1942, and for the first half year, their monthly production was in single digits. By the end of 1942, only about 40 Tigers had been produced in total, even if you lowered the standards and gave each battalion just 20 Tigers. Adding in combat losses and other reasons, these Tigers were not enough to equip the 501st and 502nd Battalion. So the Panzer IIIN was temporarily included in the heavy armored battalions to ensure they could deploy on the front line with a complete formation. Now let's talk about the story of the Panzer IIIN. In the early German strategy, the Panzer III was positioned as the main battle tank responsible for direct engagements with enemy tanks, while the Panzer IV was a support tank. It used howitzers to provide fire support on the front lines. However, as the arms race escalated, even the Panzer III equipped with a long-barreled 50mm gun began to struggle against Allied tanks. The more powerful long-barreled 75mm gun was too large to fit in the original turret of the Panzer III, so the Germans turned to the larger Panzer IV as their main battle tank. However, the 75mm short-barreled guns originally designed for the Panzer IV couldn't be wasted, so they were installed on the Panzer III tanks, allowing them to take on the support role originally intended for the Panzer IV, and integrating them into the heavy armored battalions to complement the Tiger tanks was actually a very wise decision. The Tiger tank's 88mm gun was excellent at anti-armor, but it wasn't cost-effective to load it with high explosive rounds for dealing with infantry. In comparison, the 75mm short-barreled gun's high explosive shells were cheaper and more abundant, and they could be loaded quickly. The combination of the two could be said to complement each other's shortcomings. As for the armor of the Panzer IIIN, by the end of 1942, it was considered adequate with 50mm of frontal armor, plus an additional 20mm plate, making it resistant to most small and medium-caliber anti-tank guns at long distances. Moreover, the short-barreled Panzer III had better mobility compared to the Tiger. It was well suited for tasks like reconnaissance and navigating through forests. So much so that when Tiger production ramped up and the German army planned to replace these Panzer IIINs, many officers and soldiers in the heavy armored battalions were reluctant. Back to the main topic, this episode plans to simulate the scene at the end of 1942 when the 501st Heavy Armored Battalion was sent to North Africa to fight the British. At that time, the battalion was equipped with only 20 Tigers and nearly one-half of the remaining tank slots were filled by Panzer IIINs. Additionally, historical mechanical failures rendered several Tigers inoperative, so in this case the Panzer IIINs became the main force, with only 2 Tigers stationed at the rear. Let's take a look at how this high-low combination performs. Alright, with the final British artillery and tanks destroyed, the outcome of this battle simulation is decided. As you can see, this time the Commonwealth deployed a large number of tanks, even more than the defenders, including the then new M3 and M4. However, the German army still stubbornly resisted the offensive. Previously, even the Matilda II alone could make the Germans feel hopeless. However, the upgraded Panzer IIIN, equipped with 75mm armor-piercing shells, now has the capability to counter them. Historically, the Panzer III underwent numerous modifications to adapt to battlefield conditions. Previously, when App was doing a simulation of an early World War II battle, he took it for granted that the Panzer IIIN, since it had a short-barreled 75mm gun, was an early model of the Panzer III. Especially with my serious yet silly commentary, it made a lot of people in the comments and bullet screens laugh. Everyone's support is the motivation for WWII to keep creating. I'd like to thank everyone in advance for your support, and we'll see you in the next video.